Everyone says email marketing is dead, but yet some entrepreneurs keep turning simple follow-up into lifelong customers. And Ely Delaney, I don't even know how many years we've known each other, he has built his reputation as the people whisperer, and he helps business owners create trust-first email systems that work in any economy. And we're here to talk about it on the Marketer of the Day podcast with Robert Plank. We're brought to you by dfypodcast.com. We handle the podcast backend editing, publishing, and promotion, so you can focus on the interview. And the interview that we're focusing on today is how to maybe not geek out so much on your CRM and technology, but focus on the psychology of nurturing your email list, of staying in touch with people, and maybe even navigating the whole mess that AI has made our lives and our business. So, Mr. Ely Delaney, how the heck have you been? How are you?
I'm doing good, my friend. This is way overdue. God, I don't even remember the last time that we actually talked, but we've known each other. I think we were trying to figure it out. I'm going to say easily 2012, if not earlier. No, actually, it had to have been. It was 2010 or 2011 or 2012, because that was before I moved away from Phoenix, and that's when you and I actually met first at Ken MacArthur's JV Alert event, and which was a lot of fun. And then after that, we were both in Armin's stuff, which, you know, all hail Armin, because he's like the goat of this entire industry. And yeah, so it's been a long ride, that's for sure.
It's like catching up with someone from high school and they say, oh, remember like this teacher, this principal, remember like the auditorium? It's like gives me tingles of nostalgia. Just even thinking about guys like Armin and Ken who are still around, but sometimes just people fall off, right? Including you and me, right? And then like you remember, oh yeah, like Eli's out there, what's he up to? And there's always like the old and the new, right? Because as much as things change, they still stay the same, right? We're still, I mean, even like the podcasting we're doing right now, that's been around for decades. It's just the technology was simpler, and websites and funnels and social media, sometimes just the platforms change, but the foundational techniques remain the same. And I think we're both on the same page as far as like the seriousness of email, right? Because like just every billion-dollar company in existence has been trying to put email out of business since the 1980s, right? And they always were like, hey, here's some better way of communicating. But then it seems like these replacements don't seem to be very like buyer friendly, or for some reason it's like, well, if we want to actually have a real business and we want people to actually like go to our web pages and buy our stuff with like a kind of a more like, you know, consuming mindset, it's like email after all these decades, it still works, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. And it works even further if you're in the B2B space. So, you know, a lot of the stuff we're dealing with, like old school internet marketing, and it's gotten like bastardized now because so many people, it's just like pound your list to death. And what I found is that for me, that never felt right. And, you know, if I get an email from somebody and I open it up and it's a pitch, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not interested, but whatever. And then I get another one the next day, and then I get another one the next day. And nowadays people are sending like 2 and 3 and 5 emails a day that are all the same thing. And for me, it's like, no, dude, go away. And at that point, I'm unsubscribing from them. I've always come from the place of build a relationship with the people that are on your list, because these are the people that you need to treat them like human beings, not like your personal ATM. And what I did find is when I moved away from that kind of more mass market side and started working more in the B2B space, like a lot of my clients now, they're working with the founder or the CEO of a multi-million-dollar corporation. They're building that relationship. If you send that other kind of stuff to them, they're like, done, and you'll never get the job. But if you're building, hey, here's something really cool that helped me when I started my business, I think it might be helpful for you, check it out. Now it changes the entire conversation. It's like, oh, wait a minute, Robert's sending me some really nice stuff. This is cool. And they pay attention and they read it and they reply back. That's one of the best parts, is you actually you're not looking for clicks. You're looking for people to reply back and say, thank you. Or, you know what, this is awesome. Perfect timing. I've been meaning to reach out to you. Can we schedule a time?
Yeah, and that's a couple of good reframes there, right? That because like it frustrates me when there's a lot of this focus on the numbers, right? Like, oh, this email list and it gets these number of clicks. And then there's but I get also frustrated on the opposite end when, like you said, you don't want to like hammer the same stuff every day, but there is the opposite problem, right? There are these timid marketers that
Yes.
let their list sit and die for like 90 days, 6 months. And they're like, oh, well, I don't want to bother my list. And it's frustrating because I'm thinking, well, it's like if someone, if like, Bill Gates or Warren Buffett or whoever, if they were emailing me like even every day or even every couple of days, if it was something useful and that was like kind of on my path to success, I would welcome that. And so it's like there's just such a weird self-defeating psychology, projecting our own insecurities onto others with just like messing around with this whole like email strategy. And so it's what do you think about just if someone says, okay, like I'm on board with this idea of like being helpful and kind of staying on the radar, but how do they navigate this nuance of like, you don't want to be unknown, but you don't want to be too much?
Yeah. So there's a couple things with it. And you did bring up there's definitely two sides to the seesaw there. They are either pounding the list to death or they're like, I see this guy doing that and I really despise it. I don't want to do that. So they do exactly the opposite, which is, let's send out a quarterly newsletter, which nobody remembers who you are that far out. I mean, especially in today's ADHD world. But you can do two things with this. Number one is newsletters have changed a lot. Like the newsletter that we used to have, at first it worked, and then everybody just started pitching all the time, and so now it doesn't work. Newsletters are making a bit of a comeback, and I'm curious on how that's going to work because I've been a big fan of newsletters. Do not build relationships. They're good for regurgitating data. They're good for sharing information, and like a paid newsletter with here's valuable stuff in it is great. But most newsletters that go out are basically, hey, here's what's going on in our company, and here's where I'm speaking, and here's the client who said wonderful things about me, and here's the buy one get one free sale I have, and all the things are just
me.
Exactly. And people are like, yeah, I don't care, go away. And they open it, they glance, they delete it, they're done. And so the newsletter has its place, and for a long time I was very anti-newsletter, but I'm seeing a shift in the mindset of it, and I'm like, okay, when it's done right, it can be very valuable. But that can't be the only thing that goes out. What you need to do is maybe you want to do a weekly, quarterly, monthly. I don't even quarterly is too far up. A weekly or a monthly newsletter, that's fine. But you as an individual, especially if you're dealing with other human beings, which we all are, you need to stay in touch more often, but you need to send stuff that looks like you actually stopped and sent an email to them. They imagine that it looks, acts, and feels like you opened up Gmail and said, hey, I had a great idea I want to share with you. Check it out, and hit send. And so if it looks like a big fancy template, which people can see a mile away, you see the nice header across the top and the fancy footer at the bottom, and you add some extra pictures and all that kind of stuff. Immediately people go, oh, that's a newsletter. They just blasted this out to everybody. But if you clear all that stuff out and make it just text, so it just looks like a basic text or just a basic email, people are going to like, okay, what's this? And they open it up, and then you're like, hey, you know what? Here, this is a book that I read that was super helpful for me. I always keep this book on my desk. It's The Go-Giver by Bob Berg. And I share this book all the time. And I talk about why I like it so much, what value it gave to me when I learned. I had Bob on my podcast, my first podcast back in 2013. And I tell a little bit of a story about it, but I talk about, like, I believe that not just every business owner, but I believe that everybody should read that book. Now, when I go through and I share that as an email, and I tell the story and I tell why the book is so powerful and everything, people reply back to it and go, thank you so much. You know what? I've had a couple people recommend that to me and I haven't picked it up yet, but I just ordered it. It'll be here tomorrow.
Ooh,
and guess
nice.
what? Now they've replied, and now that starts a conversation. And the beauty of it is conversations lead to sales. So I didn't pitch anything other than a book that's not even mine. It's like, okay, yeah, if they use the link that I put in the email, it'll go through Amazon and I might make 30 cents. What do you do? I think Amazon gives me a commission check that buys me like 2 mochas a year, maybe. So it's not like I'm doing that. I'm not promoting it for the money. I'm promoting it because it's a book that I highly recommend, and I think that other people can have value out of it. And I use books as just one example. There's a lot of different things you can share, things that you learn from your mentor, things that you picked up other like podcasts that you listen to, videos you found on YouTube. You know, most of us have heard of the Simon Sinek Starts With Why TED Talk that he did. It was like 16, 17 years ago or something. And I think is still a popular one, and I share it all the time. And the cool thing is, that's one all of my clients love. So they share it with people when we start building this stuff out.
Hmm.
And that's when you change that up. And now, depending on your audience, it's going to change a little bit, but you can do this. You can send one of those a week or one every 2 weeks. I try to not make it too far out. 2 weeks is about like my farthest, because you still need to stay top of mind, but you don't need to bug them as much. It doesn't need to be every week. If you're dealing with the CEO of a company, if you're sending them something every week, it might get a little bit annoying. So slow it down a little bit, you know, one every 10 to 14 days. But when you do that, you're able to stay top of mind without being an annoying pest. And what ends up happening with that is they see the value in you. They see that you send good stuff. So obviously you care about them. And it's not just you pitching all the time. Because guess what? If you send a proposal over to them, they know what you do. They know what you got. They know what the price is. You don't need to pitch them all the time with it. And you mix that stuff up with every once in a while. Hey, just want to check in. Are you guys ready to make that decision yet? And now it's not like you're bugging them just to get their credit card.
Yeah, this is powerful, especially this idea that there's some idea is in here that I think about all the time, right? That, well, there's that whole idea of top of mind is that, well, they need you, just not right now, right? The timing's not right for whatever reason. And so it's like you have a lot of work and time that needs to be done to go from being unknown to they know what you do. They're just not ready right at the moment. And you can't just make that leap suddenly, but then you kind of have to stay almost at that ready zone. So that way, when they are prepared for you and the timing is right, this project for this quarter, whatever, then they're like, okay, now we can go. And it seems like there's a lot of like build up and lag time for you to get to that point. And it's powerful to think about, right? Like, and especially the randomness of it all. And like that event that we met at, there's been events right around that period of time when I got so frustrated because I did want to network, but these guys I would come up with at the restaurant or the bar or the meeting room or whatever, they just want to talk all business. And then what talking business would meant segue into, then they go and talk for 20 minutes of a pitch, which is like, I don't really mind being sold or pitching, or I do buy things, but like, I get so tired after a while. And sometimes I was just like, hey, like, how's your family doing? What's going on with your kids? Like, just give me a little bit of something other than what everyone else is giving me. And that's why the podcast is so fun and so powerful. And then when you send the email just with, and there's probably got to be a better word than randomness, but of just saying like, hey, here's something that's like off the beaten path, right? Here's this book that I like. Here's this like samurai philosophy that I'm a fan of, just to kind of change things up. Because like I was just randomly thinking about it an hour or two ago. I woke up super early and I was thinking about a guy that when I first met him, he was big on like, if someone already buys from you, like they buy a info product or a course, he's like, he would send like an email like 2 days later and 3 days later. And at the time that was like revolutionary to me, like, right? I'm like, you send all these emails to someone that hasn't bought, but if they have bought and they're on a specific list and you follow up like about that thing they bought, and then he would do things like he'd work from like 7 a.m. to noon, just like pumping out content, pumping out articles. And so the first few months after I met him, I would just daydream like, I wonder what he's doing right now on a Wednesday morning. He's probably writing some articles, and just kind of like missing this random person in a weird way that I met at an event, and just like curious about what he's up to. So I love tapping into that idea of like staying in touch and the warmth that like we're trying to all get through social media and through email marketing. It seems like it's possible if we kind of apply some of what you can teach us. And so I'm really curious about when you jump in with some new client, like what do they say? Do they say like, hey, we're not email marketing at all, we need help with our nurturing? Like, what's the before picture?
They do go on those two sides that we talked about earlier. Sometimes they're just, they're mailing out their promotions, whatever's going on. And there's always, they were taught you make an offer every time. I'm like, no, there should be a CTA every time or a call to action every time, but not necessarily. You don't have to pitch every time. We changed that. But that's one side. Or the other side is they're not emailing enough at all. So they're in those kind of arenas. But most of them, they do come back and they go, okay, I've been working on building this list and I've tried all these different things. And then of course they're looking at the numbers and they're super excited when they're getting like a 15% open rate. And I'm just like, okay, that's industry standard, but that sucks. And they just kind of give me a blank stare and I'm like, no, that's not where we want to be. And so we talk about how we change it up. And I'm like, I'm looking at the emails and I'm like, these are all about your company and these are all about all the things you're doing and what you have for sale. You aren't building a relationship. And they're like, but that's what I want to do. I'm like, okay, then let's fix that. And so once we do that, we start changing the attitude and how we communicate. And that's the biggest thing. It's like, it's not even how often we communicate, but how we communicate, how we talk to our people. And that's a key word is talk. We're talking to them, not yelling at them. We're not doing the megaphone thing. We're looking for conversation with them. And when we do that, the beauty of it is once we start doing it and they launch, it's funny because they'll get like responses from people been on their list. I have one client that she'd been in business for over 4 years. And after we launched their, what we call the ultimate follow-up system, in the first 3 weeks, it was either 2 or 3 weeks, she came back to me and she's like, Ely, I've had more people reply to my emails, thanking me for the stuff I've sent them, and more people on those replies asking to get on my calendar because they think they need my help now than I've had in the last 4 years. And I'm like, well, that's what the system's supposed to do, because when you start talking to people like people and adding value and adding stuff that's actually going to make their life better without consistently pitching them and acting like a cold corporation, they respond to that. They feel heard. They feel like you actually care about them, and they feel like they're more connected to you, which builds know, like, trust, and loyalty. And the cool thing about doing that, like you were talking about the, staying in touch with people, I have people who've come back to me. I had a guy come back to me literally 10 years after he had seen me speak at an event in Arizona. And he says, hey, Eli, I've been on your list for a few years now. My son's starting a construction company and he needs some help with marketing. I want to know if you can help us out. And I go into my CRM. I'm like, okay, what does a couple of years look like? And I remember the dates because the email I got was September 16th of 2020. And he had seen me speak July 3rd, 2010.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so, it was over a decade later, he's coming back. So a quote unquote couple years was 10 years. And the beauty of it is that because I built the system the way I did, and I followed up with him the way I did, he was excited to ask for my help because he knew that I cared and that I had value and I was in the marketing realm. Ultimately, I couldn't help him out because he was looking for stuff that is not in my arena and not stuff that I recommend doing at all. So I eventually told him, I'm like, this is not going to be, I don't recommend doing it this way. And that was perfectly fine. But the fact that literally 10 years later, he came back to me to refer his son's business to me, that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah. That's encouraging that there's all these kind of thankless tasks that you have, don't you? Like you keep the oil changed in your car, you keep going on little walks, you brush your teeth, you buy flowers for your wife, right? All these things that, well, it kind of keeps the baseline where it is, and then other things sprout from that. But if you didn't brush your teeth, you'd have some real problems. And so, but you don't really appreciate it much. You kind of take it for granted because these are these things that should happen, and you don't really see the results of it until later, or you don't really see all the results, right? You're just like, well, how did that person end up buying, or how did that person end up remembering me? And it's just like, so we have to have these best practices in place so that way when the timing is right, and when they do say, hey, well, it's been 10 years and oh yeah, I'm thinking about what Eli said, like a lot of it just pays off, just not in the way we would want it to, and definitely not immediately because we're all impatient people. And so like
Right.
but you have these good ideas here, right? About email marketing, like ask questions, get them to reply, focus on what's important to them and not for you. And I think like with all this rise of AI, especially with writing, like I'm always like, well, how do I outsmart the AI, right? Because we all want it to be written just like us. And I think like, and AI is always adapting. So like the prompts and the strategies like don't always stick. But whenever I'm kind of like massaging the AI, I'm always thinking like, okay, like what I'm writing, like who is reading it, and like what are the keywords or the groups, and then what do they want, and what's their fears and frustrations, and what are their desires and needs, and then I'm like work that into it, and I feel like that pushes it more towards the humanity, and I only need to
Right.
tweak the AI writing like 10% versus 50%. But I know like that AI has been quite a disruptor is an understatement, and especially in writing and in email marketing. I mean,
Yeah.
to crank out 20 emails used to be like a month and $5,000 minimum, but now someone says, "Oh, I'll just put this one prompt in and it'll crank them all out." So, like, what's your thoughts on that? Like, what's happening with AI and all this email marketing?
Yeah, I won't lie about it. I do use AI to help speed up my process. I still think that AI will destroy the world. I have seen Terminator. So, we know what's going with it, but reality is, it is definitely a massive disruptor. And for people like us that are in this industry and we have our skills, I'm finding, like for me personally, I am finding there's a lot of people that are like, well, why should I hire you when I can just have AI write all my emails for me? And I kind of think of it like a timeline. It's like, okay, if you're not an experienced writer and you don't understand human psychology, you haven't studied copywriting, all the things that go into us doing what people like you and I do, because I know you're a copywriter as well. Um, from that standpoint, if you don't have that experience, let's say you write something, let's say you're going to get it 10, maybe 20% there, just because you don't have the experience. That's not your expertise. You've got expertise in other things that would blow us out of the water. But you throw it into AI, and AI it has the wisdom. I wouldn't call it wisdom. I call it knowledge. As the knowledge to understand some of the basic stuff out there. I think of it like an intern who's read the books, went to a few classes, but has no real world experience. It might get it from 20% to 30, 40%. Maybe if you're really good, 50%. The problem is, do you want something to be 50% good?
No,
I know I
heck no.
don't. And with my experience, I have specially trained it on my frameworks, my methodology, the things that I'm looking for. I can get it to do stuff in the 80% range, but that's still not good enough. I need to get it to 100%. I want it to be like, this is freaking awesome. And so everything, I'll use it to help speed up my process, but there is no way that out of the gate, AI can make it as good as somebody who has the experience. And so, and this is not just from a writing standpoint, this goes for anything. Like, I mean, we see right now there's a little big thing. Everybody's making these posters that look really cool. The only thing is that they all look exactly the same.
Oh yeah.
And if you look at the websites that are being built on AI, most of them look the same. If you really look at them, you took 3 of them side by side, you can go, oh yeah, there's a very easy commonality between them, because they have no real world experience and they don't see the nuances. And that's like, for me, the nuances are like, when I work with a client, I'm ghostwriting for my clients. And when I say ghostwriting, for some people don't understand what that really is. It's not like they're just hiring me to write as them. What they're doing is I actually interview them and I pull that wisdom and the words they say and their stories and their experience and all the things that make them them. I pull that out of them. And then I'm turning that into the words, whether that be email. I'm actually doing some stuff on LinkedIn writing for people too. And what ends up happening with that is AI can help flesh out the basics. The problem is it misses the nuances. And those nuances are your tonality, your pacing, even the expression on your face when you say the words. I watch the transcript, I watch the video, and I see that. And I've been doing this for 20 years. So I know how to translate that expression and that pacing into words. AI can't even determine those things. And that's the problem with just eliminating an expert in their field. And we can use this in any arena. Graphic designers is another great example with it. AI can do some pretty cool looking stuff, but there's nuances in graphic design that make it makes it stand out. And if you've looked at something, it's like, that looks pretty cool, and then you just like forget it. That's what we're talking about. AI is missing something that the human heart puts into play. And like from a writing standpoint, this is really easy because you go to any social media platform and read, 10 things on there. You'll notice some of it, you'll read it and it's got all the right words and it sounds pretty cool in what it says, but there's no sticking power with it. And it's because it has no heart. And that's where the uniqueness of each human being comes in. And I think that's the big thing all of us need to understand in anything that we have AI do in any capacity, because if we lose the heart, it becomes blonde. It becomes like everybody else's, and somebody will read it or they'll look at the picture or whatever it is. They'll go through and they're like, oh, that's cool. And then they move on to the next thing and they don't remember it at all. We want to be memorable. We want to have something that like that right phrase kicked in, or there's a uniqueness of something in the picture that was like, oh man, that's beautiful. And when you can get that, that's where the heart is. That's where the human being comes in, and AI is not there. It may be at some point, I don't know, but I don't think it will be personally. But having that is what makes us unique. And if you want to stand out in today's world, it's okay to use AI to help leverage your time, but don't use it to replace. You have to put you into it. You have to look at an expert who actually has the experience to help you along the way, because they may be able to do it faster, which is great. I'm a big fan of don't fire people. Figure out how you can help them leverage their time so they can just produce 10 times as much work for the same number of hours put into it. And when you can do that, then you're still keeping that expert person that has the heart. And when you do that, you will win.
Very magical. I'm always thinking about this, how AI fits into our future, and this idea that like judgment is so important, right? And I love your analogy there that the AI is kind of like, you look at someone's resume and there's the education where they went to school but no experience on it, and that judgment's so important, right? Like I had a coaching client back when we met like 10 plus years ago where she made a website and she like logged a bunch and she was like, oh, look at all these comments I got, and they were all spam comments, like back in the early days when before AI, but spam comments were all over. And it's like she just didn't realize that they were spam comments because she hadn't seen enough, right? And she was just so happy, like, oh, this person has their casino site and their pharmaceutical site, and I'm just like, but you look at enough of these and like they all look like the same, and then like I
haven't seen those for a long time. That's funny,
right? Because now they're just all more clever. But like but you open up like the front page of LinkedIn and it's all this, it's not X, it's Y. It's the emotion in the room felt heavy. Everyone in the room fell silent. Like we can laugh at these because we see them hundreds of times. But if you don't really know what you're looking at, you might say, oh, the room felt heavy. That's a good thing to put in my writing. So you're saying that there's like 3 tiers basically, right? There's like, there's like the beginner using AI, but you don't really know what it's putting out. So you get 20% of the way there, right? Then there's like, well, an expert like you who can kind of massage the AI to 80%. But then the missing factor is then you adding your own humanness. And like sometimes I'll make something in AI in parallel and then make it myself, or I'll kind of I'll start it, AI will finish it. AI will start it, I'll finish it. But just whatever it gets you to that finish line, I think you're so right. And I'm always, because I do get mentally messed up in the head working with AI, right? Because I'm like, this is working so fast. Why am I needed? And I sometimes feel like I'm doing work unnecessarily for those final few percentages.
So here's the thing with that is that there's a lot of people that are just like, let's build a machine that's just going to pump out all this content for us, whatever that looks like. I mean, think about podcasts. There's somebody I keep seeing on Facebook that's advertising, you can make X, make $5,000 a month on a podcast that you never even recorded. And I'm like, yeah, but how many people are actually going to listen to it, right? But you said there's a couple things with that. Is that number one, we talk about those phrases that we're starting to catch, that people catch, like it's not X, it's Y type of frameworks. Yeah. The problem with those is that now what's happening is AI is looking at what works and it's integrating that in. So now when it becomes everybody doing it, now it doesn't work anymore. The problem is there are certain things that are like, if it's part of your personality, you should use it. Great example. I have some people who are writers who use M dashes a lot in their normal everyday writing.
I had to stop.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, I say I never use M dashes, and I never have. I always have something else that I use because it wasn't a key on the keyboard and I was too lazy to go figure out how to make the silly thing. So for me to have an M dash in the stuff that I do, that's a no-no because I've never used them to begin with. However, one phrase that's getting called out a lot right now is here's the deal. That's another one. People are like, oh, if I see here's the deal, I know it's AI written. No, that is something that I've used for years. As a matter of fact, I actually have caught myself in speaking, saying that multiple times. And it's something that that's just a phrase that's part of my vocabulary already. So am I going to yank that out of my writing because people think it's AI? No, I'm not going to. I might be more aware of certain things here or there, but if it's appropriate for the spot and it's something that you do already, then yes, leave it in. You should leave it in. Don't rewrite everything you do based on whether people think it's AI or not. I mean, one thing I've seen a lot of stuff now is people complaining about like the AI detectors everybody's running everything through AI, which I'm like, okay, don't you guys have something more important to do anyway? But they're running it through and people are running stuff that they wrote 10 years ago before AI was commonplace. And it's being shown as 80% AI written.
The U.S. Constitution gets caught. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where you got to make it you got to make it true to your life, your personality, your experiences, and write like you talk. That's really, it needs to be like you. If you read it and it sounds really good, but it doesn't sound like you, then you're going to do it wrong. It's not going to work. Now, going back to different things with AI is an amazing brainstorming tool. And this was one of the best things. This was the first thing that I started using it for. And I've actually helped a lot of clients with it, is when we're looking for those topics that we can talk about, we have so much wisdom rattling around in our heads, but we take it all for granted. And so if we can go through and say, okay, and then go to any AI, you can do this. Say, okay, here's my business. This is what I do. Here's my client. The more information you give it, the better. And say, okay, what are some of the things that people in this, if you were my client, what are some of the things that you're confused by? Or what are the questions that you have for me? And let it come up with a bunch of ideas. And you could say, give me 30 questions. And now you may only find 10 or 15 of them that are good, that are actually legit. But then you use that and go, okay, I could answer that question. Don't have it write it for you. You need to answer the question, because you're going to use your experience, your words, your personality, your tonality, all the things that make you you. That's what's working. What's wrong is okay, come with all these topics and then I'll go write all these articles for me. And it writes a bunch of garbage that has nothing to do with your experience. And that's where people are making the mistake.
Ooh, very helpful. So use AI for brainstorming and then you come up with the answers. And I feel like Absolutely. I could talk to you about this all day long, right? Because it's such an amazing time and so many things that are possible, but also a lot of ways to go wrong. And then it's like, then you see people really going wrong. And then it kind of gives you the anger you need to pursue on. And then the AI of it all kind of gives you the incompleteness, because if it only gets you part of the way there and then you need yourself, it's like a kind of a never ending gamification, which can be a lot of fun. And so there's so much to get to, so much to talk about, but I want to make sure we focus on what's important to you, Mr. Ely Delaney. So in these final few minutes of our discussion, do you think there might be a missing question that I should be asking you? I just don't know what to ask you.
So I think the question that you probably should have asked would be, what will modern communication look like in a short amount of time? Because this is where we're talking, everything we're talking about. Like, my specialty is email, but communication is communication, and it's always changed in medium, but it never changes in the psychology. And my answer for that would be that we are going to become more niched. We're going to find a smaller tribe of much more hyper focused and hyper engaged people. And if you do it right, I think it's going to be really powerful. Don't try to get the masses. That's where AI goes wrong, is because you might get 500,000 views, but nobody cares. And that's because you're gaming the system instead of looking to have to talk to real people. If you can get your group of people that really resonate with you, that again know, like, trust, and are loyal to you, you'll do better. And that's always been my framework. That's always been my methodology. It's like, I don't care about helping 1 million people. Yes, I'd love to be able to do that, but if I can help 1,000 or 2,000 really, really great people that are of the same mindset that I am, and they get what I do, so I don't have to like fight with them all the time, because we've all seen those people that come in, and it doesn't matter what you do, they're going to argue with you about it, saying that won't work for me. It's like, no, if you don't think it's going to work for you, bye-bye, go for it. I think that as time moves on, we're going to find two things happen with this. Number one is we are going to really get down to a much more, I hate to use the word, but segregated audience, that people are super engaged with what we do, and it's just going to be a smaller list, but they will be very hyper attentive. And the second thing, and this is where that works out really well for the majority of us, is those are going to be these pods that show up, and in exchange, we're going to have the big wide net of noise, which is all the generic AI generated garbage. And that's just going to be the noise out there. And we're going to ignore 90% of it, but we're going to see like that 10% that's going to be like, I like what he's doing. That was funny. Or I've been there before. I know that feeling, that they're going to get super into that, and they're going to feel like they know you, and they feel like that they're your friend. And like, my clients are my friends, and that's what I've always gone for. And I think that's what's going to make the difference.
Yes, exciting times ahead to use the sniper rifle instead of the machine gun, and to get those exact people that are right for us, and vice versa. And it makes me giddy on the inside thinking about some of this email marketing stuff, especially when I first, it took me like 5 years to figure it out, right? At first it was hard enough just to send an email, make a sequence, but then once I kind of got enough of the muscle built up and enough of the rhythm, the cadence, then I had people telling me that like my email sounded like me. And then when I had my circle of close friends and we were all emailing, I'd read them and I'd like hear their voice in my head, because I'm like, hey, this like somehow they accomplished what you're talking about, of like getting their voice put into the words. And it's like, that's a great place to be, where you're just kind of authentic, and you're attracting the people who are right for you and your business. So that way everyone can grow and everyone can get helped and achieve some results. And so if someone says, man, this guy, Ely Delaney, he's got a lot figured out, being a kind person and having a sustainable business and just doing a lot of things that make sense, what are some next steps here? Because a podcast is just a taste, a tease, and we want to find out more about you as far as social media, website, book, etc. So if someone says, I want more of this Ely Delaney guy, what is the service? What's the offer, is that one client said, but also where should someone go?
Yeah, best thing to do is to go to connectwithely.com, and Ely is ELY. So connectwithely.com. You're going to be able to connect with me on all my social medias. You can find my main website, my podcast on there. We talked about the book. The follow-up code is my new book, came out in April. Very excited, getting some amazing feedback from that. There will be a link to Amazon on that as well. Go there, and seriously, if you want to connect with me, reach out. I'm on all the social medias. Well, not all of them, but I'm on the LinkedIn, Facebook are my two primaries. Reach out and say you heard me on this show, and hopefully, if something was of value and you got a good nugget out of it, tell me so. I like to hear that kind of stuff. And feel free to shoot me a message. I like to meet cool people, just like it says above my head, right? Let's have a good conversation. And if you found this valuable, awesome. I'd love to hear it.
But meet cool people, it tells me that it's about quality, not quantity. And sometimes you're speaking on a Ken MacArthur stage and only 50 people are there, but there are 50 people that they're present. They're hanging on to your every word. You do a podcast, you only get 1,000 listeners, but that's not like 100, or you get 100 listeners. It's not like 100 Twitter impressions. It's like 100 people like listening to the whole entire thing. And so you go for the quality, and you kind of stay consistent, and you keep speaking on stages, getting on podcasts, making the social posts, sending the emails, and it all adds up to something that's amazing when other people who are maybe impatient or had the wrong strategy quit long before you did. And so it's really great to catch up with you, and you can find that link hub, so to speak, or link tree, as the kids say, at connectwithely.com, and you can get on his escape the 3 touches and done trap that's killing your sales potential. It's a follow-up fix 5-day email course. There's the follow-up book code, social media, websites. You can connect with him directly. So that's the logical hub to go, connectwithely.com. And it's been such a blending of the old and the new, right? All the email marketing, relationship building stuff that like it's in my head somewhere, but I forgot. And it's got me excited to go and like revise my email sequence or ask some more questions, get people to reply, fix a few things up. But if someone says, well, I need Ely's help with that, then they should contact you and just, work on some stuff, work on some projects and get the business to where it should be. And especially read the book, The Follow-Up Code. And that hub that we said is connectwithely.com. Ely is spelled E-L-Y. But before I let you go, Mr. Ely Delaney, it's time for the scary part of the show where I try to stump you. I try to put you on the spot by asking about a fun or interesting quote or lesson that has served you. So what comes to mind as far as a fun or interesting quote or lesson?
I think the biggest, I'll give you the quote that has actually made the biggest impact on me. The problem is not the problem. The problem is your attitude with the problem.
Ooh, who said that? That's genius.
Captain Jack Sparrow.
Oh, of course. Pirates of the Caribbean. Okay.
Favorite quote of all time, because reality is that we live in this world. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of divisiveness. And if we stop and not focus on the problems, but what is the attitude behind it? How am I dealing with it? What are our possible solutions? It completely changes the mindset. And even when you have negative, bad things, whatever you want to call it, that are happening to you, a lot of those things are out of your control, and there's no reason to stress about the things out of your control. Focus on the things that are in your control, which goes back to Stoicism mindset, and which I'm very big into Stoicism. You messaged a little bit about Bushido, which I'm very big into. If anybody's listening, you like Bushido or you like Stoicism, definitely look up Bushido as well, because that's a big piece of what I do these days.
Amazing. Well, it's been great catching up with you. And it seems like it's all about the reframe, right? As far as your own internal psychology and then the psychology of those people that you're trying to communicate with. So it's a very wise lesson. And we can find out more about Ely at connectwithely.com, his podcast, his book, and so much more. And thanks for stopping by. We need to stay in touch and not wait another decade to do this again.
Absolutely, my friend. We will make that happen.
All right.
Thank you.
Guaranteed. It's in the books.